Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer.
Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Podcast, where we talk about growing your engineering career. Knowing yourself and how you interact with others around you is super important for that growth. So you'd think that would be obvious since aren't a company of one as a career engineer, the human factor comes into play. And we don't think it's talked about enough, so that's what we're going to talk about today. And we brought on some people that are pretty good at facilitating that conversation, so it should be a good one. First, before we get into the conversation, for all the newcomers, we do have a few episode types we like to cover in the beginning of our episode. The first one being that Steve and I get on, we choose a topic, we discuss it, and how it can help you grow your career and hopefully inspire you to take some action on it. The second type of episode is a solo episode. So either Steve and I will get on, share an impactful message with you to try and get you fired up and take immediate action the very next day or when you stop listening to the episode. So more about a short, impactful message on those days. And then the third episode type, we like to bring on a guest, like today. So we bring on a guest with a certain expertise or a certain message to share with you guys that we think will be impactful for your career. So today we have two members of the Ripple Intent organization. And what they do is they like to bring people together to discuss the human factor behind working teams and not just the technical stuff. So we're not diving into technical things. It's not going to be something that's going to help you technically in your engineering career, but we're going to talk about how to work better in teams and what that's all about. We think it's highly impactful, and we think it's something that you should be paying attention to as you grow in your career. So I would like to welcome John Grant and Kyle Murkowski to the show. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Not a problem. And I guess just to start us off, John, we can start with you. Just how, introduce yourself, what you're doing today, what your role is, and who your clients are, and just what you do on a daily basis.
There's a whole detailed story. I'll keep it super brief, though. I guess a little bit about me to help be helpful. I love that this is an engineering podcast because I am an engineer, both trained, educated, and that is my day-to-day job. So I'm an electrical engineer in the construction industry. I've been doing this for several decades now. I tried to stop counting a while ago, but I got involved in Ripple Intent about 7 years ago because I got really fed up with how hard the construction world is. And we do a great job beating each other down. We learn to be very adversarial. That's part of, honestly, how I was trained. And it was really hurting me. And so I learned that there's a lot better way for us to approach the world, approach each other that is very positive and could be constructive for us. And that's kind of led me into now bringing that into my engineering practice. I'm an executive. I have a team of people that I work with on a day-to-day basis, plus external clients who are architects or construction owners, contractors, all the above. And so it actually, we'll talk about it more, of course, but it's a great way to learn how to be in the world, but not one that we're regularly taught.
Right. And just in case the audience hasn't put it together yet, what I do is that, but on a much shorter time scale. So I'm coming up on 10 years in the industry. Awesome. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. So Kyle Murkowski, I have been on the owner side of the construction industry for most, if not all, of my career. A few years in the beginning, dabbled in general contracting and subcontracting, and then went to work for a developer for a while. And so we also played general contractor and we also played subcontractor. We had our own landscaping crews and a bunch of other crews. And because, developers know how to do it the right way. And so the only way to do it the right way is to do it yourself. and it's also cheaper. So I got to learn the kind of the dark side of the ownership side of our industry. And then I went to work for an academic medical center, and I've been in healthcare ever since. So even today, I oversee capital construction for a portion of a very large healthcare system. That takes me across 5 different states throughout the country, multiple campuses, and then also oversee some of our facility services. So the facility management team that keep the air moving and the lights on, and hire folks to help them do those things to keep the hospitals in operation day to day. So that's my day job. And then, of course, Ripple Intent and Volunteering started this thing back in about 2011. We got organized, of course, when John, the engineer, joined and said, we need to get organized. And I was like, yeah, we probably should get organized. And it's been on an awesome ride since. So that pretty much sums it up.
Nice. The dark side, that kind of hit me. The dark side of ownership. You want to expand just a little bit on that?
Oh, sure. Learned through that experience. So we were doing a lot of residential, like commercial, and some, I would call it multi-use construction development activities. And so we, like I mentioned before, we hired our own staff internally to do a handful of trade work. We subbed out quite a bit of work. We did all our land use planning and worked for a firm that was very aggressive. Very much, we can do it cheaper, better, beat up everybody, get the lowest price possible, get it as fast as possible. If you won't do it, someone else will. That sort of mentality of everyone's a commodity, everybody's replaceable, just do your job and go home. And the money was the bottom line. So, those values were instilled, ingrained, and on display daily for many years. And it was unfortunate because at the time, this gentleman had the multi-million-dollar house up in the mountains, played golf almost every single day, drove the fancy cars, had all the things, and you just thought, this is apparently what you got to do, being young and impressionable. This is what you got to do to be successful, because clearly it works.
But does it work in the way that we all want to do work day to day? Yeah, I've worked, I definitely see that on the MEP small business engineering firm side as well. I've been a part of that, and it didn't last long because I just didn't like it. And maybe it was because it was 7 to 8 years into my career that I had seen something better, and I came crashing into that, and I'm like, whoa, this exists, So yeah, it wasn't quite what I wanted to do with my career. Might be touching on that adversarial training that John was talking about. It was very, very much like, we beat each other up and we protect our profits at all costs, and the bottom line is the only thing that matters. And it doesn't matter if people are happy around you. It's kind of part of why we started this show too, Steve, is just to because I think the ultimate pushback on that kind of stuff is personal excellence and having those values, right? So
yeah. Absolutely.
Definitely the dark side.
Did that experience directly lead to Ripple Intent?
I wouldn't say it directly led to it. I think what that experience really did is it put me in a position for about, I'd say 2 to 3 years, where I was chasing what the owner had and trying to be that guy. So I was trying to mirror and learn from him, his style, his techniques, his approach. And clearly he had, like I said, he had success. It wasn't just the things, but then the folks around him, some very powerful, very wealthy folks who apparently supported this type of behavior and this type of approach to business. And so what I learned and experienced those couple of years, I mean, for a while, it was like new and exciting because I'm learning things and I'm getting visibility. I'm exposed to all these things and all these people. And what ended up happening was I was actually a kind of a jackass outside of work, because what was happening, looking back on it now, I was living completely against most of what I had been raised to value. And so that day-to-day tension of what I'm trying to act and think and behave, as opposed to what I'm naturally driven towards and respect and have values for, that tension, it took a lot of energy. And it took a lot of effort, and it certainly took a lot of toll on not only myself, but my health and those around me and such, to the point where people say, I just don't fit. It's time to move on. It was one of those things where I finally realized this is not me, and I'm trying to not be me, and it's not working.
Yeah.
It wasn't, for a while it got depressed because it's like, well, if I can't do that, then I'm not going to get the success that this guy has. So I had to go through that experience too. But on the backside of it, it was, well, wait a second. Maybe there's a different way to go about doing this thing called life. And, chasing after somebody or marrying somebody or trying to be like somebody else who's successful, maybe that's not the answer. So I think it started me on the journey that eventually led to what we're doing today.
I do want to point out for the listeners that in the construction industry, not everyone is so adversarial, right? It's not like there's just jerks left and right. There are plenty of them. But a lot of it stems from the fact that we're focused. There's tons of pressure on schedule and money and large dollar values. And when that comes into play, it drives stress levels really high. It drives behaviors in a way like we've both described in our experience that are contrary to our personal values and beliefs. But we often just don't talk to each other about the importance of finding other avenues to accomplish the same goal that allow us to bring our whole human selves to work. We just don't talk about it. It's historically not something that's been there. And this is not, it's not just the construction industry that's way, right? This happens in manufacturing and other design, in all industries. This is very common. This is just kind of where our experiences come from. And learning how to deal with those pressures. So we spend a lot of time educating to say there is a different way to show up, but people need to understand that they have to be given permission, that it's okay to bring that side of yourself to work. They need practice, and we're providing opportunities to learn that through Ripple Intent.
Yeah, that's perfect. And kind of the undertone that I got from what you're saying is that, like, they're not so adversarial and stressed out because that's how they want to operate. It could be, but if you see someone operating that way, that you just know that it's coming from somewhere. The stress that you're talking about is super high on them. And if you want to make a difference, what you can do is get outside of your working environment, join something like Ripple Intent and what they're putting on so that you can discuss those things outside of that and figure out a way to discover like who you are, how you can make that situation better, right? You may not be able to make that situation better because they're them and they're a part of their environment and them growing up. But if you just have conflict and push back on that for the sake of pushing back on it, you're not going to get anywhere. So if you want to try and figure out how to perhaps fix the situation you're in, instead of just saying like, okay, this is a bad spot, kind of like I did. When I showed up and I was talking about that job I was in, I didn't have the skills that we're going to talk about today or the discovery process available to me that we're going to talk about today to work through that and try to make some positive change. I was just pushing back. I was like, I'm immediately looking for a different job. I'm out of here. This doesn't work. But I didn't quite put it together that I was actually in control of that situation. I could actually do something to influence it for the better and maybe even influence somebody else to like start turning things around. But I was definitely just adversarial and saying, this is crap. You guys are full of shit. This is a terrible way to do business, but I never had said, hey, let's just zoom out for a second and look at the whole thing and go, why are we here? Why are we doing this? What is stressing us out? And could we do something to like not be so stressed out? Is there a different way? Right. So I just want to encourage you, like, if you are in that situation, because like John said, not everybody's like that. There's great contractors out there. There's great owners. There's great MEP firms. There's great vendors. There's, all these people that work together in great teams. And when you look around and they're doing very well and they have a great presence and they're making tons of money, that's most likely how they operate, right? But some of us are stuck in that world where in our little part of the world that we're in our career, we could be stuck in that. So just remember that you can take yourself out of that and then figure out a way to do it a little bit better. Right. So I encourage you to think about that. Let's see. So, I think we covered a little bit about how Ripple Intent was born. But Kyle, I think you're either the founder or a founding member. And I think someone had inspired you. If I remember listening to an episode, I think his name was Mike Wood. Maybe he was one of the people that inspired you to kind of take action on it and get it going. But tell us a little bit about like how it started and that story behind where you said, all right, fine, I'm going to step into this and let's do it.
Yeah, sure. So way back when I was up in Portland, Oregon, and I was asked to take over the leadership of a group that was doing the owner side, so owner project managers within an academic medical center. And the group was pretty disengaged, not by choice, but if they could have a t-shirt that said, "It's not me, it's this place," they would have worn that t-shirt with pride. And when you dug into what's going on, you would find conversations that were very similar to, okay, so what projects are you working on? And here's my report of my 15 projects, and they're all over budget and they're all behind schedule. And you go, okay, great. So what are you going to do about it? And they're like, nothing. And you just kind of pause for a minute, like, what do you mean nothing? They're like, look, one guy was real clear. He's like, I could put all kinds of energy and effort into this and maybe move these from red to yellow. I don't think we'll ever get to green, but you don't realize how many systems, people, processes, this whole place works against us being successful. So it's easier to just not care. You do what you can do to survive day to day, move on, and then you go home. And I was like, okay. But then I found this to be a common approach for most people. I mean, there were folks who were like, oh, we can do better and we can make it better and we can fix it. But the majority attitude was, it's just hard. This place is really hard and it's hard to work in. And so tried to fix it, didn't get very far, and was lucky to be in an area that had a multitude of owners. And so met some of them, met folks at high tech and at municipalities, K-12 school districts, colleges, other healthcare systems, and had conversations with people who do my job to find out they were dealing with a lot of the same things. It's just the complexity of the capital project process that was so difficult that many people were having the same struggles. And so I was talking about this with Mike Wood and another guy at breakfast one day, and we were kind of complaining that there's really nothing out there. I say nothing from a leadership development standpoint or a conference standpoint or an organization standpoint where people could come together and just talk about what it's like to go through and tackle some of these challenges, which ultimately do come down to people. And Mike, I'll never forget at that breakfast, he said, well, instead of you guys both complaining about it, why don't you go do something about it? And we went, what are you talking about? It wasn't like that the clouds parted and the angels sung and it was like, whoa, there we go, inspiration moment. No, this was like, you're kidding, right? And he's like, no, seriously, give it some thought. And so we put an event together, and I went back and I asked all those folks and said, hey, if we had an event where all of the owner people can come together and some of our contractor and architect partners and some other folks, if we came together to talk about some of the things that we all talked about one-on-one, would you attend? And they said, sure, I'll try anything at this point. And so we had our first event, and quite a few folks came. You know, we ended up having over 100 people show up at that first event, and it went terrible compared to what we know now. But the best part was at the end of the day and the following day and the weeks that came after was the constant stream of, hey, that was really good. When are we doing it again? And so lo and behold, here we are.
Yeah, you got past that fear, started, and then getting the good feedback. We've been experiencing some of that too. It feels good to like actually know what you're doing is going to be helpful.
Yeah, even if
Sorry
it did
to cut you off.
I was going to say, even if it did suck at the first time, looking back at it, you started it and got it going. And so that's how it was able to progress over time and get to where it is now. That's awesome.
Scary stuff though.
Oh yeah.
Okay, awesome. So John, when did you enter this sphere? And what did you, like, what was that process like?
Well, for me, at first, some of this, like it happens with a lot of us, right? You're like, oh, there's a new community. There's a group of industry people getting together out there. Let's go see who's there, see what's going on. So I somewhat knew Kyle because we actually do work together in the working world as well. And so I got involved, and that was in the time where we were doing our annual symposium. It was coming to Denver, which is the Denver area is where we're based. And so I said, let me get involved and see what's going on. I actually volunteered to be a facilitator for some of our breakout sessions at the event, and realized that whole model I had for myself of learning how to be the knight in shining armor, battling the dirty contractors, that there was a better solution out there. And so I realized that what I had been searching for was a community of people who, like we've kind of said here, is that, I needed to better align my personal values in the workplace. And how do I bring those pieces together in a way that is fulfilling for me and helps me to grow, as opposed to, tearing me down or forcing me to separate work from home into two different distinct personas. So again, things we're not taught in engineering school, right? So we very much are taught how to, the technical aspects of engineering, the technical aspects of product or project delivery, but we're often not taught what is it like to treat other people like people at work. And so part of that growth process has been, and this is part of the program we have for everyone who joins the Ripple Intent community, is you have to get aware. You need to create awareness of who you are, how you're wired, what your strengths are, and how you show up in the world. And the more that becomes a forefront mindset, then that really changes your outlook, and it helps you have a different impact, a positive impact on the people around you. So that growth journey for me started, like for me, the clouds parted. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? What's wrong with all these people? This is amazing. And I decided I had to get involved. I was like, I have seen the light, I drank the Kool-Aid, and now I'm passing out the Kool-Aid, because I have seen we can have such a positive impact on people. I got more and more involved, and as we reformulated and got organized formally as Ripple Intent, this is where I need to live. This is where my heart has taken me, and there you go. That's, we're still moving forward with it today.
Have you seen the change since the clouds parted for you in your own company? Have you seen what you bring now to work have that ripple intent that you're looking for in your own organization? Or, and what pushback have you received? What good has come out of it? I imagine there's a lot of people that might not agree, in the beginning with, hey, you're changing the way you do this. I don't see you yelling at this contractor anymore or saying, well, it's in the contract, so just do it. I don't see you doing that anymore. What's this new thing? What was that like when you started trying to integrate it?
Well, it wasn't like a switch.
Right.
And it's not a switch. I'm a person just like everyone else. I get frustrated. I get angry. I have to work through things. So I would say that, kind of what's changed is, how do I modulate my communication based on what other people around me need? And, when I get frustrated, I have to pause. And, some people count to 3 or 10 or whatever it is, but I have to pause. Sometimes I need to walk away for a moment. But I think the biggest thing is, I actually get to experiment. I am a leader. I'm an executive in an engineering firm. And so I have had different roles. I've done this in a couple of different firms with different teams, but I actually get to use it as sort of a pool for experimenting and workshopping ideas, all of which is about being intentional about the culture that we want to have within our organization, and what does it look like to build connection amongst each other, as opposed to just showing up, doing your 40 and going home, right? So this is about creating opportunities for people to engage. One of the things we often talk about is the Gallup engagement surveys, which have been done for however many dozens of years, which essentially say that, about 30% or so of people are actually actively engaged at work. and the remainder vary between being, somewhat disengaged to being actively disengaged and drilling holes in your boat, right? So we've all seen the canoe graphic and everything. So, can we move some people from the back of the boat to the middle and some from the middle to the front and give them places where they can connect? And so honestly, that's where I spend most of my energy at work, is paying attention to how I show up, learning strengths of my teammates, helping my teammates lean into their strengths and become more engaged and more connected. And it's everyone, I would say, the people who sort of report to me or our surrounding executives, generally speaking, have adopted that and taken it and run with it. And so I actually don't have to lead a lot of that effort anymore. There are people who, I want to say a lot of them are engineers. It doesn't always just sit with us, but we get a bad reputation about being poor communicators, or, we take our emotions and we like to put them in a box. It's not that we don't have emotions. We just are careful about telling you whether we use them or not. Like, I left them on the shelf over here and I'll pull them out when I need them.
Some people
Right?
think that's the way. Yeah.
And they think that's the way.
Or that might be bad for their career if they don't do that. What if somebody does see me get emotional and then it's going to have an adverse effect? Like, sometimes.
You get some of all of the above, right?
Yeah.
And so some people don't necessarily want to engage, the way that I am proposing for our team, but I would say that's a small percentage. And for those who aren't ready, that's okay. I have plenty of patience and compassion for them most days.
Yeah.
And when I don't have patience, I go back to the people who really want to engage and love it. So, it's all opportunities. It's opportunities for everyone to make a decision to try or not.
Do you spend your time like equally with people who want to make some changes and the people that are more resistant, or do you kind of lean more heavily into people who are more adverse into changing their perspective?
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers. If there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, is to keep listening to the podcast, but also that if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show.
Oh, that's a great question, Steve. It varies. It's certainly the easy path of least resistance is easiest. So I think I've never paid attention to that. No one's asked me that question before. I'm sure that people who are more interested, I give more time. People who are less interested seek me out less.
I want to be careful though, because the way you worded that question, Steve, the whole change thing, right? If you look at a spectrum, I think most people show up out of curiosity. Like, I heard what you guys do, or a new employee and somebody new to the team, or even on a project. It's like, hey, you've got a reputation, John. I'm curious to know what this is about. So there's a lot of folks there. And then there's folks in the middle who are like, yeah, I'm actually growing, developing, and learning something out of this. And then there's the handful of folks who go, I'm fine. It's the place that I work at that sucks. So I don't need to change. They do. And there's a lot of internal dialogue there that goes on, and trying to find those folks. They end up going in two different camps. One is, I really want to be better, and I want my place to be better. I want my work to be better. I just don't see the path forward. And then you've got the other ones who are just really taking a hard look at themselves, going, well, wait a minute. Is it me? Not, is it my environment? And so it's always easy to smash the easy button and go, it's the environment, it's my job, it's my place of work. It's, and they all need to change. Heck, John and I get contacted from time to time with people who go, hey, I heard you do work with teams. I work with a bunch of jerks. Can you guys fix them? And we go, yeah, okay.
Let me go get the team cooperation fairy. We'll sprinkle some dust on them.
No problem. It's like, all right, so how much of a jerk are you, person who's calling or reaching out? And so you never know. But there's a lot of, change. I don't know about you, but change in most organizations, it's truly a 4-letter word. It starts as a good idea, but in reality, at the end of it, we really don't want to change. And as people, as human beings, we're actually wired not to change. We're habitual. Mm-hmm. We like what we do. We find our patterns. We find our things. And change is often disruptive for us psychologically, physically, and emotionally. So, and if you don't believe me, I always have a simple trick. I'm like, go find somebody take out your cell phone, unlock it, give it to them, and say, okay, delete and rearrange as many apps as you can in 2 minutes. There, change. Yay. We like change. Yeah, everybody listening to this just kind of had like a mini throw up moment there going, I'd never let anyone do that.
Like a heart attack, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's always caution when you use that word change, because change often implies some sort of expectation or perception or something like that. So I think most of what John and I experience and the people that we really end up working with and resonate with is like, things are pretty good, but they could be a little bit gooder. So can you guys help us be a little gooder at who we are and what we do? Because that would be nice. And we're like, yeah, absolutely.
People that want to grow. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really not about changing. It's giving clarity and then providing that opportunity to ask the right questions to if they want to change, but just understand, what's available to them.
Yeah. And it has to be safe too. Mm-hmm. If it's not safe, and that's one of the things that we kind of found by accident early on, is that when you have a whole bunch of people from different organizations and you don't let them tell each other what organization they're from, then they end up conversing like human beings. They converse like friends. They converse like people. And when you somewhat force them using some of the tools and techniques we do to get them to build some sort of rapport and share a few things, suddenly they realize, oh, yeah, okay, well, we heard that early on very often, which was this. I wish we would talk about this stuff at work, but we really just can't. It's hard. It's risky. It's all these different reasons. And we kept hearing that. And we kept leaning into it going, all right, so how do we help folks have clearly some important conversations where they work? And in some cases it can be done. In other cases, it truly is risky. I mean, you take any project, for example, if you show up as a project team member and you go, I'm worried about all these things. Well, is that being authentic? Is that being genuine? Is that being transparent? Is that freaking the hell out of some people?
Yep.
So there's a time and place to try certain things. Like John said, he provides an awesome environment to experiment, to work with others, to try different things because they're safe, because the people around him know the damage control is so high that there's no fear of retribution, retaliation, of failure. Like, if we do screw this up, the company's not going under, the client's not going to be upset, all these different things. It's you're able to do those things. But for so many people, there's an ingrained fear of or hesitation, not even fear, but a hesitation where, I can't talk about politics at work. I can't talk about school. I can't talk, I can do surface level stuff. Hey, how's your kids? Oh, dog's fine. Okay, great. See you later. We got to get to work. And all that moves along without us having the real conversations.
Yep. Well, I'm one of the people that was scared to say anything, right? It depends on your culture too at the organization you're in, right? So the one that I'm in, my company, Hallam ICS, it's like I feel very much comfortable to screw up and also do things for the better. Like, I've had both experiences at this job because I felt safe to do it. I had a year in, right? I sat down with a skip level, the engineering service line leader, and he straight up told me, he's like, this is not going to be great, but I'm telling you that you sound very much Jake Central. Everything's about you. And I'm like, I know, I don't feel that way. But what I was teaching and saying and kind of preaching to people within his earshot, he's like, man, it just really sounds like you're all about you and like, do it my way. And my response was, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to think on that really hard. And I'm going to follow up with you with either some clarifying questions. Where can I tactically do better on this? But it just turns out that all I really needed to do was like think about it a little bit and go, man, yeah, come out of myself and like watch me have that conversation with somebody and go, damn, yeah, that does sound very preachy and very much like it's the Jake show. So then I was able to adapt just because it was a great place to just, it's expected that it's okay to mess up and your reputation is not going to be broken forever. We're going to tell you what we think about it and give you some tips on how to improve, but it's up to you to improve. But they give you that space. So now it's like much better. I have that same energy and I want people to know and to learn and know the way, right? And part of the new outlet is having the podcast, which is great. But like now I can deliver my message in a much better way. The rapport has grown with all the team members. And now even if I started to slip back into my old ways of like preaching a little bit, they would just be like, that's really good info, but you know, you're starting to preach a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, I'll take that back a little bit. So like the culture allowed me to do that. When at the previous company I was at, it was just returned with more, you know, conflict and pushback. And we never got to that point where we're like, hey, let's just have a talk around how we perceive you and how others perceive you. And let's see if we can fix the perception. It's like, oh, what a great idea. You know, then you start talking about it. So depends on which organization you're into and if it's safe to do that. Right. So I don't know if that was kind of in line with what you're saying, but I felt that firsthand. So.
Yeah, I think it also, and John could attest, because both John and I have been in organizations where it's not safe to do that, but the leader or the manager or the team create those pockets of safe space where it is okay to do those things. And then from time to time, as you try to like, hey, check out what's happening here with this group of people, we should do it somewhere else. Oftentimes it's met with tremendous resistance because, again, change. Hey, you're doing it wrong. You should do it our way because it works. Like one guy said the other day, I could throw 4 books at you about why this works and you still won't do anything different. And I was like, that's an awesome picture in my head. I'd love to do that. So yeah, it comes down to, like he said, part of it's organization, but I think more common is having a good leader, a good team, a good manager that can create it, even if it's pocketed throughout the organization, and at least it's somewhere. Yeah,
not everybody is blessed to be in that situation. So like we said earlier, like try to branch out and see where you can find that because it's around, right? So.
And sometimes finding the safe space is finding a person, right? It may not be your whole team. Maybe there's a part of your team where you can find some safety and build it. And then maybe you work on increasing that sphere of influence or connection or safety, right? And working your way through there. So kind of to your point of the org culture, and is it a safe or unsafe place as a whole? Well, right. So some of this is you become intentional in how you're communicating with other people. You can have some influence on this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you have total influence at that point, but people start to mirror behaviors. And so some of that does come along. Now, as a leader, right, you touch on a really interesting point in that we're not often taught how to be leaders of people, right? We're often promoted into positions of leadership because we were good at the thing that we did. Mm-hmm. And so then the question becomes, what does it actually mean to be a leader of people at that point? And we like to think in terms of creating human-centered leaders, right? Where you're looking to build people up who are performing a thing. But I like to think about that the result, not the thing that we do is just the thing that we do. It's not what we're trying to do. I like to think about trying to build up people and making sure that they can live into their strengths, be their best selves. By the way, we happen to be performing a service.
Yeah, but by the way, we're engineers. We happen to engineer things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you can do that in a for-profit business, right? It is okay. Absolutely. These aren't competing goals.
And they're complementary. They're very complementary. And how many times I can't tell you one engineer that I've ever come into contact with that was bad at technical stuff. If not, the most often occurrence is I start talking to someone who's an engineer, and I go, man, you know so much more than me. Like, I need you to do this thing on the next project that I have, because what you're saying right now, like, you're very well technically versed in this. It's like, I'm going to use that. That's great. But the problem with that is if someone looks at them and sees what they can do very well, and that's what got them there, and they're having a great time doing it, and they're very good at it, and they're happy at work, and then you shove them up into a position where they have no competency, so you've promoted them out of their competency and said, you're going to do now 60% of what you're going to do is going to be running these teams and like communicating to the owner and getting all the facts together and making sure that timelines are scheduled right and reviews are going to be done in the right order, and vacations and all. They're going to be like, that is not my technical expertise. So then they start to feel really bad about how they're doing. Your match just compounds, and then they're not taught how to be a leader. They've never been exposed to it before they were promoted or even talked about it. It's just like, most of it's been born out of, hey, I've been doing so well for so long, but I'm getting these kind of just, yearly raises that are just keeping up with, they're the 1% to 3%. Like, that doesn't mean anything. I want the big jump. Like, where am I going to go where I can tackle something? And they go, oh, well, that's management and leadership. Oh, okay, let's do that. But then they don't say, okay, over the next 12 months, our plan for you is to gain all of these skills, like, very quickly, so that when we promote you and you get that 15, 20, 30% bump that you're looking for, or else you're, not going to be happy anymore, or, whatever it is. Everybody's got the money goal. Then, we need you to be there with those skills. But I've never had anybody tell me that. It's just like, yeah, okay, it's been 3 years that you've been in this position, so now you get to go to the next one, but we have this leadership role to fill, so we're gonna put you in there, and it's gonna come with a good pay raise. Like, okay, great. And then, but that was it. Where's the plan to let's make sure he knows how to lead people. Let's make sure he knows how to schedule things. Like, who's been tracking his skill competencies? You go talk to the managers, and it's like, where's the matrix of how good this guy is in all these areas and what he needs help with? And it doesn't exist. And I think that's part of the problem. I know I got kind of off on a tangent there, but I think people are, just to wrap it up, mistakenly promoted and out of their competency to the next level when they're not ready. And you have failed as a leader to get them ready to do that. But it could be part of why they're struggling so much with the human connection. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it happens constantly everywhere, right? And so a lot of this is about intent. Are you being intentional about who you want to be? We had a guest with Ripple Intent who had a phrase. He was a leader in a construction organization, and he would say, how do you want to be tomorrow? And so the more you're reflecting and processing on that, it comes back and helps you reorient. How are you communicating with your team members of how do you want to be tomorrow? How do you want the group to be tomorrow? Is the way that you're communicating leading towards where you want to be? Are you intentionally building the culture? This is, Kyle is very complimentary of me, but Kyle is actually one of my examples of what you can do with your team, because I've been watching him do this with his teams for several years, both internal and external, in growing and creating space for people to bring the best of themselves. And it's just amazing to watch, and then to try and model things off of, and then we take it back into the Ripple Intent community and create more awareness for people of, hey, how can you modulate, where you are through reflection to then create a better space. And it helps people go home whole. Mm-hmm. Right? Which is really one of the goals that I feel like we could or should have. What does it truly mean to send someone home whole?
Yeah, they can go home and be more present, at home. And because they were present at work, they can definitely separate those two worlds.
Yeah, and I see a big benefit because I've seen it in my marriage and my life, because we're both, we're 2-income households. So it's I've seen it happen both ways for me and my wife. If you can't connect at work and have the conversations that are meaningful, and all you do all day is just build resentment, or you can't figure each other out, then you come home then what are you going to do? You can't get out of that energy, and then you want someone to actually hear you and explain so that you feel maybe decompressed from it. So then it's you both get home from a long day of work, and you've made dinner for the kids, and you did a load of laundry, and then you want to talk about for the next hour and a half to 2 hours about your work day and how much you weren't heard, or this guy told you to do something again and they didn't listen and all this. And so like it really affects the home too. So it's like, I think you said, John, earlier that you could integrate work and life and not have to just put this barrier between it. And I think if I understood that correctly, I think it's very true. Like if you can integrate so that you can be your same self with the same values and be whole at home and at work and transition between the two seamlessly, your life gets so much better. And I can tell you that I've gone through that transformation at home, like firsthand, being married for it's coming 13 years now, which maybe doesn't seem like a lot, but 13 years is pretty long. But you just see that it's almost like a step function of how much better your life gets when you can be integrated at work and at home. So I know if there's younger engineers listening to this, they're like, what are you talking about? Like Friday after work, I'm going to the bar and we're hanging out and I'm not thinking about work until Monday. I mean, that's kind of cool, right? But as you get deeper into your career, it's like being integrated in whole is going to become a big deal for you, and be able to move through life, because you're only going to get more responsibility, have more assignments, have more stress put on you. The money will get real. You will be responsible for some pretty big things at work and at home. So the more you can become integrated, I think just over time is the better. So just my experience.
Yeah, I mean, people also want to feel valued, right? They want to feel heard, and some of that is about being respected too. So even if you're the young engineer who you want to go to the bar, that's totally cool, right? And have a separation. So I think I'm not necessarily proposing that work and life become equivalent. This is just about how am I showing up? Am I allowing myself to be a person at work, right? And what does that look like? How do I communicate it? Even to the point of living to your values, right? We talk about this as like this out there concept in the ether, but how do you actually define your values? Like put words to what they are. So that's an exercise that we've gone through. You can pick the words that represent, a word that represents your top two values as a person, right? One word each, but then create a description for yourself of how do you define each of those words. And that way you're creating a North Star for yourself that you can then take. And now you have to learn how to communicate your values to the people around you, which could be your partner. It could be, and maybe you've already done it with your partner, but like how often do you actually create that definition with each other? Mm-hmm. But then take it to the people you work with and do the same.
Because then you won't be misaligned. I mean, and that's the whole point, right? Is to be like, for me, when I'm aligned at work, it creates an easier energy transition for when I come home and I'm just like, I'm home. This is cool. This is great. I have nothing bad to talk about that happened today. Like now we're doing life. Let's go play Battleship. Let's go get on the game and go, play some retro games, like whatever. It's just really easy to kind of just come home and then be present with the kids when I've defined the core values and I live them out everywhere I go. There's no conflict. Makes it a little easier. I wish I could just go out on Friday nights though and go to the bar again and go hang out.
Sounds exhausting.
Do that for as long as you can. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Now I just come home and work on the project in the backyard or doing some landscaping and stuff. But anyway, we're kind of coming up on time. This has been a great conversation. Kyle, did you want to leave us? Well, first of all, I'm going to surprise you with our questions because we failed in our pre-talk. I think we told you guys a while ago, but we failed in our pre-talk to say what our questions were going to be. So this is totally unscripted and off the cuff, which is going to be great for you. John's going to love it as an engineer.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. But,
let's go for it. Kyle's answer.
They're not super hard questions. My question is around more action. What's one thing somebody could do that tomorrow that would put them on the path to figuring all this out, figuring out who they are, writing their core values down, living what Ripple Intent represents. So what's one action item? And then Steve, I know you have a question. Go ahead and give it to us.
Oh, I was going to wait for the answer first.
Well, I want to let it ruminate, and then I want
Okay,
you to
gotcha.
put your question into the ether too, so that they can kind of think.
Okay, understood.
This is more for John, so he can think.
Yeah. So my question is really high level and simple, and it's just really, what does it mean to you to be an impactful engineer?
So now you got the questions. Now we can give John time to think. We're going to lightning round with Kyle, and we'll go with what's the action that someone could take immediately to improve.
Yeah, I'll give two. So one is go to a Ripple Intent event. If there's a breakfast club near you, go attend it. That's the easy one.
I'm going to the Boston one. What was that, September? It's coming up.
Yeah,
Yep.
rippleintent.org. You can see all the sites, all the places that we have them. And if yours isn't up there, then reach out and find out how to set one up.
Yeah.
And we can help you get that kicked off.
If you're in the Boston area, I will see you there.
There you go. So then the other one is if you've ever taken any sort of self-assessment, go back and look at the results of what you got in those, whether it's Myers-Briggs or Enneagram or Clifton Strengths, or if you haven't, go take one. Some are free, some cost just a couple of bucks, but they're really good snapshots of who you are, how you're wired, where some of your behaviors and thoughts and actions come from. Take a good look at that and then just learn from it. Take some time with whatever results you get. Reach out to somebody who may know something about it or may not know something about it. Share those results with somebody and go, hey, I did this thing. What do you think? And start that conversation. The conversation with figuring it all out the way you put it, it really begins with figuring yourself out. Understanding yourself, understanding who you are, where you come from, like John said, your beliefs, your values, all those things. And so those assessments are actually really powerful. And even though some of us have experienced it through like our HR department or maybe through a job application process, doing it for yourself and looking at the information that you get from those things yourself is a great first actionable step. And if anybody wants to talk about the results, by any means, you could reach out to John or I after this podcast and just say, hey, I heard you guys. I took this thing. I'd really like a few minutes of your time to talk about what it is. We'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, it's an amazing way to identify blind spots, right? Like things that you don't even know about yourself, and be able to take action on those and pull them out of that blind spot quadrant.
Yeah, it's like when Jake was saying when he used to tell everybody he was right. And then someone grabbed him and said, you really might not want to continue doing that all the time. And he was like, but I'm right. Why would I not do this? And so you can understand where some of that is rooted in and how it shows up and how to be aware of how that translates into actionable behavior.
Yeah. That's awesome. So John, have you formulated a great response to what it means to be an impactful engineer?
No, he was so absorbed in my answer there that he's like, I need 5 more minutes, man.
I stopped thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, Kyle, that was amazing.
See?
It's actually really funny. I mean, Kyle he's actually a great public speaker. So one of his top strengths is self-assurance, and the way it comes across is just that he sounds so super confident about everything, and what he says is right, and everybody listens to him that way, and they get totally absorbed. And I fall into it all the time too. And then I go, hey, what about this or this or this? And he's like, I already thought through that and I'm ignoring it.
Perfect.
No. I mean, I think that it's the launch, right? My answer to being an impactful, what does it mean to be an impactful engineer? It's the launch. It's the second piece after that, right? The more that you reflect on yourself, like you take the assessment and sometimes you do it and it's cute. And you go, that was fun. And then you don't talk about it anymore. You put it on the shelf with your emotions in the box. And but the more that you reflect on it and pay attention to how you're showing up, like you're having an impact on the people you work with the behaviors that you represent. Whether you are paying attention to it or not, that's what's happening. So you're being an impactful human being. If you're ignoring someone, you're also having an impact on them. So the more that you become present in how you're showing up, maybe that's being mindful in your presence, then you can actually become impactful in a positive, intentional way. And that's where the magic really starts to happen, because you can then see the reaction that people have towards you, and you can see that evolve over time.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, because you never know who's watching. I mean, it could be, your kid, it could be a friend of yours or a coworker or a leader, and just setting that example and being your best self will just have that ripple effect, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's even down to like, it's the cashier at the grocery store, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's everyone you come into contact with, you have some kind of impact on them. Now, I'm not an amazing human being. I'm not super positive with everyone all the time, right? But like,
Don't think it is.
Again, the more present you are, then that it changes your perspective on how you're showing up in this world we live in.
Yeah, the more chances you will have to have a greater impact, right? The likelihood of your success of doing that goes way up. So,
right.
Beautiful.
And the more you practice, the easier it gets.
That's right. And you will suck at it at first, just like with everything that's new. It's okay.
Okay.
So
it's okay if it's hard.
It's okay if it's hard. That's right. That's what I meant to say.
So if our listeners want to get more of what you guys are saying, where can they find your podcast? Where can they get a hold of you? And then where is the best place to find Ripple Intent and sign up for one of your breakfast clubs?
Kyle?
Sure. So rippleintent.org is the website. You'll find links there to all of our registration for all of our upcoming events, including the 2-day symposium in Dallas in February. You can find John and I both on LinkedIn. Be happy to reach out to us there. Heck, if you want, you can give me a call, 970-744-8466. Give me a buzz. I'm happy to talk about this stuff at any time. So if I don't pick up, leave a message and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. But I love talking about this stuff, and I know John does too. So feel free to reach out to us any of those ways, and we will hopefully see you somewhere in our journeys.
I think that was our first phone number drop.
Yeah, there you go. You guys are active on LinkedIn? Can they connect and send you a message?
For your younger engineers, you can text me at that phone number too if you'd like. I do know how to use all the texts.
Yeah, I think if you leave a voicemail though, I mean that might be scary, but if you leave a voicemail, you know, that might be something that he pays more attention to than texting, but we'll see.
I don't know, man. My kids can't seem to figure out how to call and order pizza. It's like, let's do it online. I'm like, let's actually, we actually tried this once. It was like call and order and then do it online. And they were shocked. Like, wow, it's like so much faster to call them. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, huh?
If an engineer picks up the phone and actually calls you, please let me know. Because I think that should be rewarded or something. I think it should be a prize for that.
They're the next guest for you. That's what
right.
They are.
That's right.
And that works when you're trying to follow up with people and at work too. If you call them, you'll get a response much faster.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
seriously, that's like skill level 101.
Yeah. Action item number 2, pick up the phone.
Back in ye olden days, before when we were faxing things to each other.
What's a facsimile?
Did you have voicemail? I don't know.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
I don't know how to check it.
I was listening to a guy the other day, and he was sharing the results of his research project, and it's in 20 years into making 600,000 people, primarily college or recently graduated students. And this is all a study about leadership development, leadership creativity, leadership formation. And one of his conclusions was the number one way that people get better at leadership, whether it's skills, whether it's ability, capacity, efficacy, whatever it is, the number one way is by, drumroll, talking to people. I kid you not. It was his number one way. The more that we interact with other human beings about topics that are more than surface level topics, the better we will grow and develop in our own leadership and self-development capacity. So there's something to actually be said about finding ways to encourage people to actually talk to each other.
Right. Yep. All right, guys, you heard it from Kyle. Take action. Sign up for Ripple Intent. Show up. Take one of those personality tests or strengths tests, competency tests, whatever that is. See what the results are. And then if you want to turn it into something impactful, go with what John said and actually think about it, reflect on it, go deep into what the result was and why you wrote those things down and why it spit back to you, telling you who you are and your personality type, and actually take it and do something with it. I highly encourage you guys to take that action and turn it into something impactful.